Man, what a game. What a way to start off the NFL season. That was right down to the wire. Chiefs pull it out 27-20. Funny enough, first quarter, I tweeted out Chiefs 27-20 winds up hitting the one time that you wish you put it in a correct score bet. But regardless, we can't dwell on the past. Let's talk about this game a little bit here. So last night, we did our first Optimistic Fan Club live stream. We're going to be doing those all season. But in that, I touched on all the teams. I talked about why I thought Baltimore in particular was going to have a drop-off this year. I said that they peaked in 2023. They had tons of free agent pieces. This year, they let 3 of their starting 5 offensive linemen leave. And I said that you can't expect that team to catch lightning in a bottle again after Lamar's coming off an MVP season. How do you think that you're just going to continue that when you have so many departures in key areas? And I just felt that they're not going to be the same in the sense where they're just steamrolling teams. And I know that opening game against the Chiefs at Arrowhead, that is a difficult feat to overcome going in. However, you could tell early on, like, the Ravens aren't that much different from what we saw last year. It's like completely dependent on Lamar being able to extend the play. But now, I mean, especially from what we saw in this opening game, they don't have enough of the ability to set the tone in the run game with their running backs because their offensive line isn't as good at the point of attack. The majority, like the overwhelming majority of all the rush yards in this game came from Lamar Jackson scrambles on design pass plays that wind up breaking up, and he takes off. He does his thing. He's absolutely amazing. And I said again in that preview stream that we did last night that it's not like they're going to be a bad team. They're always going to be in it fighting to the end because they have Lamar Jackson. He is that good, especially in the regular season, especially when you let them hang around and he can just start picking you off short and then, breaking away on broken plays. But when you run up against Pat Mahomes, that's what's going to happen. And that's what happened in the AFC Championship last year too. So all that to say, just talking about some individual performances, I thought Derrick Henry, he had his couple 5, 6, 7 yard runs, but it just looked slow. Kansas City, it's really what the Browns did last year when they played the Titans early on. It's like, if he's not behind a stout, like road grading offensive line and he can't get past the line of scrimmage untouched, it's really hard for him to produce yardage. And I think that the Ravens were experiencing that. They were just better off with Justice Hill, with other guys being rotated in, because the straight up run downs where they know you're running the ball, you come out in a heavy formation, nothing was happening in those moments for the most part. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure they will improve because with all of this, we can't overreact too much because it's the first game of the year. You got to figure things out, especially when you have an overhaul. But with the Chiefs, they are just still so good. And another individual performance. Now on the Chiefs end, Xavier Worthy, I'm sure Bills fans are very close to the edge right now after, you're praying that Keon Coleman is all that in a bag of chips. My brother is a lifelong Bills fan, child of the 80s, all those great teams. And he texts me and he goes, we might have made a mistake here because Xavier Worthy, 2 touchdowns, first touch on that end around, bursting up field, untouched. That speed looks different. I was kind of down on him. I thought it was a reach that he went in the first round. I thought it was purely based it's just because he's fast. I don't know how great of a receiver he necessarily is. But that doesn't seem to matter because Rashee Rice just killing the Ravens all day on slants. No one in that linebacker group could cover him when he was in the slot and they got paired up there. It was just impossible. So for anyone who is not a fan of the Chiefs, bad news. Rashee Rice is developing into a very good, reliable young receiver. Travis Kelce is still productive. Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. He will continue to be Pat Mahomes for the next 10 plus years. And Isaiah Pacheco, they can run the ball and they play great defense. They just look right back where they left off. No sign of fatigue. They come out, play an extremely physical game against a physical, tough team. And for the most part, they just walked all over them. And that is what I felt was going to happen. I thought that the Ravens were going to get exposed and be ultimately overpowered. There were some guys who showed up on the Ravens side of the ball. I mean, Isaiah Likely has basically leapfrogged Mark Andrews as the most threatening weapon outside of Lamar Jackson on this offense. Zay Flowers is still young. His utility after the catch is like he's still super small, so he can't really work in the middle of the field. He has to get a bit of space so he can use his speed, but Isaiah Likely can run through you, stiff arm you, and then take off down the sideline. And then to finish that game late on, we can talk about the end of the game in a bit, but to be that close, to just have a toe out, but be right there to making an absolutely amazing game-winning play, that's tough. But a lot for him to build on for being such a young dude. And I think Mark Andrews, if you're a Mark Andrews fantasy owner, I think that you're having a little bit of buyer's remorse today. Let's talk about the penalty situation. What was it, 5 illegal formation penalties on the Ravens? They were calling that on Ronnie Stanley all day in that game. And you got to pray that that is uniform. Like if that is the precedent that is being set in game 1, Chiefs, Ravens, NBC, national television, millions and millions of people watching, you have to keep that up all day, because if not, that could be argued as one of the most lopsided refereeing games of all time. Because there were a couple times, Jawan Taylor, I believe, Chiefs tackle, moving pre-snap, not even a legal formation. Like it's ambiguous, like, oh, is he leaning forward or back too much? He was moving pre-snap and it wasn't getting called. So this is the thing, like Chiefs fans would never admit to it, but I think all other fans of the 31 other teams say that the Chiefs get an advantage, blah, blah, blah. They get favorable calls. They protect Mahomes, the Taylor Swift conspiracies and all that. I wouldn't go that far, but you give them a lot of ammunition when you see what happened on the sideline with Steve Spagnuolo running down and calling the timeout, which then, referee professional guy who chimes in on NBC, I forget who it was, but he's like, yeah, that is not allowed. You cannot do that. It can only be the head coach who can call a timeout. When things like that happen, you give so much validity to conspiracy theorists who argue that they get favorable calls, and it's pretty undeniable in those moments when you see that. And I think that there's a bit of confirmation bias because I'm sure there's things that we miss. And when Kansas City gets penalties, we kind of block that out because it's so much more blatant when they get the help that they do in those instances. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think if you're Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, any of these great pass rushers, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, if you look at how they're making the tackles play that tight up and not having that fanned approach where you're essentially 2 yards off the line of scrimmage when the ball snapped because of your kick slide, you are licking your chops right now. Like it could be a big sack year for a lot of the game's great pass rushers. So that's going to be interesting to see how it goes out. Now, going forward, both these teams are obviously going to be very good. The Chiefs are threatening to go to the 3rd straight Super Bowl. They'll be in it all the way to the end. I'm sticking with my gut, especially based off what I saw that the Ravens are not at that same level that they were last year. Like I said, that's so hard to pick back up from that point after being that close. But even if they did make a run into the playoffs, like I don't even see them getting back to an AFC Championship necessarily. And I also said that I think internally, behind closed doors, there are some conversations going on where they're talking about long term, like, can Lamar be the guy? Can he make the throws he has to make when he needs to make them in the biggest games? Because what did we see? Now going to that final drive, what did we see in Lamar Jackson? He missed two easy touchdown throws. Easy relative to being a professional quarterback. Right there, Chris Collinsworth comes out on the first one that he tried to throw to Likely in the corner of the back of the end zone. And it goes, oh, I don't think Lamar had the chance to set his feet before he threw. It goes back. He's not getting touch. He takes 2 hitch steps and throws the ball out of the back of the end zone, completely overthrows, misses the throw. It's like, man, if you want to dispel those rumors, if Ravens fans and whatnot, all the defenders of Lamar Jackson who say that, oh, like he is an elite thrower of the ball. When you see that happen on the final drive against the Chiefs, first game of the year, after you just got beat in the AFC Championship because you throw a horrible interception in the fourth quarter, and then you do that, and then you miss to Zay Flowers, that one's a bit harder. He's on the scramble and slightly had to throw across his body, but he misses that throw. It's like, yeah, that is why you are not considered in the same tier as all of those elite pocket presence quarterback type players, like what CJ Stroud already is, that kind of arm talent. And that's no shame, because you can win a ton of games with Lamar Jackson. What he will do on the ground, I real quick pivot back to that. With the whole thing with Lamar losing almost 15 pounds this offseason and getting back to being the thinner guy, like what he was in 2019 and when he was first drafted, where he was like a pure speed running guy, that shift back to that is kind of like, hey, we did the be bulky so you can take more hits when you're hanging in the pocket. We tried that thing. It limited me from my natural abilities. I need to get back to that. I think that's the smart move for the immediate, but long term, when that speed goes, because it will, we saw it go with everyone. You can always be fast, but are you going to be that same playmaker as you age? I don't think so. We saw Michael Vick fall off. We saw Cam Newton. That was more so tied to injuries, and he was a bigger guy. But still, the people who last the longest are the ones who can hang in the pocket. It's like why Manning, Brady, all these guys lasted so long. Pat Mahomes, he does a lot of the extend the play thing to make the magic happen, but ultimately we know he can still play from the pocket. He's done it. He's demonstrated he can make all the throws consistently. With Lamar, I just don't know. So I think that it's, you know, it's not like they're drafting a quarterback next year or anything like that, but I think that they're thinking like, we put Lamar in the best chance to help get us all the way. Sure, Zay Flowers fumbles, whatnot. He had the chance to come back, win that game. He doesn't come through. I think they're having conversations. So with all that being said, amazing first game. So exciting. Very pumped that I called the correct score. So give me that one. Liv Moss, baby. And thank you guys so much for watching. This was fun. Might do another one tomorrow night. We'll see. It's a Friday night. But subscribe to the page if you haven't subscribed. We're doing a ton of live shows this year. We're going live Sunday night after Sunday Night Football. We're going to talk about all the top games in the NFL. We always touch on the Browns on the channel. So if you are not a Cleveland fan watching this, just know that there will be a good portion of time spent on that Cowboys-Browns game. But we will be talking NFL. So come by, join, hit the bell so you know we go live. And we will see you guys soon. Really hope that this is the season we always dreamed for. See you soon.